let's talk about Bronny James. The NBA draft was just a couple of weeks ago, and instead of one of the top prospects being the headliner of said draft class, instead many media members and everybody else on social media as well is talking about a second rounder by the name of Bronny James. Now, of course, a lot of this media coverage is centered around the idea that he is the son of LeBron James, one of the most decorated and accomplished NBA players in NBA history, and that's understandable, and I'll talk about that later on in this video. However, I do want to actually take the time out and dedicate some energy towards Bronny himself as the individual and really try to figure out how good or bad he is so far, because I believe this level of criticism that has been levied his way, some of it is fair, I definitely believe so, but I do believe there is also a lot of it that is unjust and unfair as well. This level of criticism reached new heights when Jaylen Brown just a couple of days ago was caught courtside at a Lakers Summer League game, and people were reading his lips, which as a sidebar is just ridiculous. I don't know why people are reading people's lips to try to figure out what they're trying to say, but it seemed as if like he said something along the lines that Bronny is not a pro yet, he's not ready for the NBA, something in that vicinity, and then decided to go on Twitter and then tap dance around the subject matter. I don't know why he did that. And because of this, people of course have ran with it and made their due diligence to make even more videos about Bronny. And even though, yes, I was about to be one of them, I decided to take a step back and let him play 2 more games because he was going to have back-to-back outings in which he's played much better. So I do feel a bit more confident and comfortable of how I'm going to report on Bronny. Let's talk about how we got here, because that's also very pivotal to the level of criticism and question about who Bronny is at this point of his career. So McDonald All-American, transitioned to USC, didn't have the greatest freshman year, not only statistically, but also cut short due to a heart problem. When he then decided to make the leap to the NBA, of course, a lot of questions arose because it didn't seem like he was prepared, not just, again, because of heart issues, but he didn't really play that well in college whatsoever in a conference that isn't that great in terms of basketball. So why he decided to make that leap seemed as if like he was just trying to maximize the opportunity to potentially play with his father, which would then guarantee him a spot in the league. That then rose a question of nepotism, but that is still just the tip of the iceberg, because a lot of this stuff does gain a little bit more traction as time continues to progress. He then entered the combine, he got scouted a little bit more intensely, and the reports were coming back that Bronny at best would be a second round pick, potentially could go undrafted, and was harping pretty heavily on his offensive limitations that were also seen in college as well, with a potential upside on the defensive side of the floor, but may not be reached due to his limitations physically, as he stands at only 6'1", and we're getting comparisons to a watered down Davion Mitchell, or possibly a worse version of Avery Bradley in the best case scenario. And so then that again furthers some of the questions and concerns on if that's as good as you are potentially going to look, and there is a possibility that you will go undrafted outside of the fact that the Lakers may draft you, then why even go into the draft? I think, again, those criticisms are fair, especially so far in the Summer League, and they become even more valid once the reports broke that Bronny only worked out for the Phoenix Suns and the Los Angeles Lakers, and then his representative at Clutch Sports with Rich Paul decided to call teams to make sure they did not draft Bronny, giving the Lakers the opportunity to do so. All of that is very, very questionable. Some people will sit here and point out the fact that for someone to have to call and tell other teams not to draft Bronny means that there may be some interest from other organizations, which is true, and sure, you can definitely argue that means that he should belong in this category of talent pool, which is a second round pick. But also, if I am his agent, there is a clear benefit of playing with the Lakers, and that is a level of job security that more than likely you will not receive with anyone else, i.e. getting a contract that is 4 years, $7 million, where around 3 to 4 million of it is guaranteed that you more than likely just don't receive or see from a second rounder. Matter of fact, most second round picks, a lot of them don't sign contracts, and if they do, they sign two-way deals now. The fact that Bronny has a 4-year, $7 million contract definitely raises even more eyebrows. So to be fair with that, which then kind of brings us into what were his expectations and how well or how close that he's meeting them, and to just cut all the malarkey back and forth, and now I can finally talk to you all like y'all my people. Bro, Bronny isn't good. But first, let's start with the positives, because I do want to speak positively first. There is a lot, and I do mean a lot, to grow and gain, a lot of foundational pieces that is already set for Bronny on the defensive side of the floor, and his IQ. His basketball intelligence and his awareness is on full display, especially on the defensive side of the floor when he is off ball. He understands the concept of 2-9ing, showing, recovering, digging, playing into passing lanes. These are all intangibles that a lot of young players, especially at 19, do not possess at all. And Bronny can display these intangibles so often that they actually translate to tangible impacts on the floor that results into steals and blocks. Now, for the people out there who believe that my bar for Bronny is low, please understand, Bronny being able to understand where he's supposed to be defensively, having that spatial awareness, and on offense as well, is very very key and important, and it shows a level of intelligence that, again, not too many 19-year-olds have. Matter of fact, there's some players in the NBA right now who don't have that level of basketball IQ, who struggle with this concept, especially when it comes off ball. And the fact that we can see it with Bronny in the Summer League game with a bunch of players that he's never played with before, literally a team that was just thrown together within a matter of like a week or two, him being able to display this is very, very key to who he is supposed to be, especially if he is a defensive-oriented prospect. So, no, I actually do believe this is a foundational piece of becoming a solid and competent NBA player, especially a defensive-oriented one that one would need to try to build off of moving forward. And then on the offensive side of the floor, it's bad. Like really, really, really bad. So bad that it's easily the driving force to why many people believe and are very skeptical of who Bronny is as a player and why they believe that he's not a pro. So bad it's translated into numbers of 7 points, 3.5 rebounds, assists and a half, almost a steal, and turning the ball over almost 3 times a game with shooting splits of 32, 13, and 62.5. Yes, you heard that correct. It's bad. Bronny plays like a wing, and it's on both sides of the floor. Being 6'1" and not confident enough to bring the ball up is concerning because there's not really much that you can do because you are now smaller than everyone else. The advantage that everyone else has trying to defend you, even if they're not as quick as you, is so apparent just simply off the fact that they are stronger, bigger, taller, longer than you. Like, it's crazy when you see Bronny at 6'1" try to be in a corner going up against someone else who is clearly has a physical advantage over him. Because Bronny is not a crazy athlete, he doesn't have the foot speed to generate separation from anyone else, so his ability to play make also isn't there either. It's the reason why he's only averaging 1 or 2 assists a game, and it's also a huge reason why he turns the ball over nearly 3 times a game, because his ability to collapse a defense and make a read, especially without telegramming it to the opponent, is practically non-existent. Just does not exist whatsoever. Also, to further this lack of athleticism and separation from the defense, it doesn't aid him in shot creation at all. A lot of these shots that Bronny has made has been in transition or semi-transition. Not trying to take anything away from it, but if you are scouting someone making a fast break layup or a dunk doesn't really give you that much of an indication of how talented or skilled they are. Yes, they made a dunk in the open court in a fast break, but that doesn't really tell you who they are as a player. So, not trying to take anything away from Bronny, but yeah, like a lot of these points are really just transition numbers that people are kind of gassing up at this point. But in the half-court setting, when Bronny's trying to separate and create for himself off the dribble, that's also practically non-existent. And what's even more concerning is that Bronny doesn't even always have the confidence in attacking closeouts. Hangs around the three-point line because he doesn't have the confidence to grab the ball and attack, dribble, drive, or create his own shot. And it becomes very prevalent that he doesn't have the confidence of doing so because there's been several times where he's been left wide open or given quality looks and he just doesn't take the shot at all. Or even when he does take the shot, it also just doesn't look like he's going up in any confident manner whatsoever. And also, a lot of these shots that he has taken have been at the end of the shot clock where he's been forced to do so. Like trying to determine how good a player is at shot creation when his shots are being forced because of the shot clock, there's no real correlation you can draw from that. It's almost practically non-existent. When you're 6'1", it's a lot of skill going on. It's the reason why Kyrie, who is also an undersized guard, can thrive in the NBA because he's ultra skilled. He understood that even with his quickness that he had to his game, especially coming into the league, he still needed to match that with a level of skill that made it hard for other teams to block his shots when he does attack the basket. And so he also can attack the rim with a level of confidence as well. That completely is lost with Bronny, and it's the reason why I believe that he hovers around a three-point line way too often because he's just hoping that maybe he can get an open look. Even those aren't really falling for Bronny. Look, shooting 13% on wide open threes when you've only made threes in the last 2 games is crazy because they're wide open threes. Being hesitant to take shots when giving you the opportunity to do so is crazy because these are, again, wide open threes. Bronny not even being a shooting threat is very concerning. Not only because, again, he's 6'1", so if you're not going to attack the basket, if you're not going to create any separation, if you're not going to be able to dribble and drive and collapse the defense, there has to be some type of threat that you oppose on a team that clearly isn't there. Like I said before, Bronny, really good at knowing where he needs to be. The IQ was clearly there. But what does it really matter if you understand where you need to slot yourself or position yourself on the floor when you're off ball, when teams still do not treat you like a threat? In essence, what I'm saying is, yes, Bronny may understand that he needs to go to the corner and then when the ball gets swung around, rotate to at the break so he can still give proper positioning and floor spacing to his teammates. But it's still not really proper floor spacing because teams don't really defend him, so they still just leave him open anyway. Bronny could borderline be at the half-court line, and it doesn't really matter because the way that teams are defending him, they're defending him in a manner in which he's non-existent on the floor anyway. That's just the truth of the matter. And so yes, Bronny has looked a little bit more confident, actually way more confident in these last 2 games, but I don't think that is indicative to who he is as a player because a lot of these concerns that we've been highlighting right now are some of the same concerns that he had bad in college. So this is just potentially who Bronny is as a player. And so basically being a negative on the offensive side of the floor gives us a clear answer to the question that Jaylen Brown really didn't prompt to nobody. Everybody just being nosy in the NBA community, and they really want to know, is Bronny James a pro? The answer to that question is no. Hell no. Absolutely not. But that's okay. Bronny is a second-round pick. Most second-round picks aren't pros. A lot of second-round picks never make it into the league. A majority of second-round picks spend their first year or two in the G League before they even make that transition to be a rotational player at the professional level. So this idea that Bronny has to immediately prove that he is going to be a pro is absurd, because majority of second round picks don't do that either. It's the reason why they got drafted in the second round. It's the reason why a lot of teams draft these players in the second round, because they see potential later on down the line rather than immediate impact. That's why. I would like to say this. Even though, yes, a lot of the criticism towards Bronny is unfair, I certainly believe that it is warranted, because he is a very clear beneficiary of nepotism. The fact that Bronny can be this bad and receive a contract that is 4 years, partially guaranteed, and be the 15th man on a roster for a team that clearly needs to make additions and improvements to the roster is mind-blowing to me. In any other normal situation, there's a possibility that Bronny not only doesn't receive that contract, but potentially could go undrafted and would have to find other ways to find his way into the NBA the way that many other players have had to. And so the fact that Bronny is awarded with that level of privilege, not because of his skill set, but because his relationship with his father, is certainly concerning and is warranted with some level of unfair criticism, because he is benefiting unfairly as well. For people to not understand and grasp that really concerns me. Nepotism in and of itself has never been something that people champion or talked about highly of. Matter of fact, as a black man, I know for a fact I and many other people who share the same complexion as me has been a victim of nepotism. The fact that I am now going to root for it because it benefits LeBron is fucking dumb. Bronny being privileged to things that disrupts the very essence of what basketball and sport is supposed to be, which is competition. Of course, many people are going to have a problem with that. Speaking about that problem in a very negative tone is understandable, because it doesn't make any sense. That's it. That's it. And what's even crazier is that when people even talk about this entire thing, even though, yes, we're trying to remove LeBron from this conversation, and I feel like in this video, I've done a pretty good job of really not talking about LeBron at all, but it's really hard to completely remove him, because it's very clear that he's a part of all of this. I don't care about what Rich Paul and Clutch Sports tries to put out there as a report. It's very clear that LeBron, who has stated multiple times over the past year or two that he wants to play with his son. That's a great story. I'm happy for him. And certainly on his part, it is deserved for him to have some form of leverage to put his son in that position so he can live out his dreams. And when I say he, I'm talking about LeBron James, not Bronny. But I want to be very, very clear. I refuse, as someone who's going to look at this through a very honest lens, I'm not going to just sit here and talk about this through the lens of LeBron James because I'm a LeBron James fan, or I want to get the next scoop on LeBron. Like, oh my God, the amount of people I've seen speak about this solely through the idea of the lens of LeBron and cannot dare fathom why people would be upset about it is crazy. What I need you all to do is to get off your knees, get it out your mouth, and let's actually have a dialogue. Because again, nepotism is never I don't know, people defending nepotism right now is kind of odd to me. It makes absolutely, positively no sense at all. And with that being said, when it comes to Bronny, it is very clear that you are not at the level in which that would justify you receiving a roster spot in the NBA. And it is unfortunate that you are being positioned like this. And I do believe it does breed a level of expectation that you are not ready for. But going to be optimistic. Brother, please work on your game, get the jump shot, because you're going to desperately need it, and understand the ability to just at least bring the ball up and organize an offense, because at 6'1", you not being able to do that is very, very, very concerning. I also would highly suggest working on your passing, because the level of turnovers is pretty alarming for someone who barely, again, touches the ball. The confidence that you hold on the basketball floor is also very disturbing. It's very apparent that you don't look comfortable offensively, and what you do on the defensive side of the floor, just continue to build and grow on it and work on your ability to be an on-ball defender with other ball handlers, because that's where a lot of your bread is going to be buttered. Not being a 6'1" wing trying to rotate over to Giannis as he gets a screen and roll to the basket like that. You're just not going to stop that. Your ability to defend someone like Dame is going to be much more, and I do mean much more, valuable to any team that you find yourself on. And hopefully you have a very long, fruitful career that expands beyond your father playing years, because that's what everyone should really want. Not LeBron being able to play with his son. No. What everyone should want is Bronny, if this is really what he wants in life, to be able to have a great, healthy, productive career. Yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Again, Bronny, I wish the best for you. I really hope you really pan out to be at least a pro or rotational player, because it seems like that's probably the ceiling that you have. But who knows? You exceed expectations, and I'm definitely rooting for you all the way through. Got to, because you're on my team, boy. Hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and until next time, I'll see you all later. Peace.